Welcome to Addicted to Busy, the podcast specifically for overachieving property managers who are dying for a little more work-life balance in their lives. Each week, we dismantle all the BS that holds us back. You'll learn how to nix those tricky, self-sabotaging habits so that you have the time, energy, and motivation to create what you really want in life. If you're looking to shift from overcommitted to overjoyed, this is the podcast for you. Let's do this. Now, your host, 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐼.
Hello and welcome back to Addicted to Busy. If it sounds like I'm sick, it's because I very much am. So I apologize in advance that this is what you have to listen to, but I promise it's going to be worth it. In the next couple episodes, I'll tell you exactly why and how I got sick. Usually when I sit down to speak to you all, I script out exactly what I want to say. And I do that because I want to give you high quality material that makes sense and that is useful for you. But today I just wanted to do something a little bit unscripted. So first of all, when I first hired a coach, there was one thing that I wanted to do, and that was that I wanted to stop overeating. I think as women, we all know that we are socialized to do two things: be tiny and small and petite, but then also never be rude and not accept food when someone offers it to you. And that just became really, really difficult to manage. I found myself going to networking events and I'd be eating and drinking even when I didn't want to, just because I felt like it was the polite thing to do. And I was doing that in social settings when I was visiting friends and family's home. And it was causing a lot of pain because I really wasn't comfortable in my body. And what I discovered when I started coaching was that I was using food as a way to avoid my feelings. I was using food to cover up these insecure thoughts that I had about myself. So how this works is when you think about dopamine. So dopamine is the chemical that is released in your brain when you're about to receive an award or a reward of some kind. And dopamine is very, very pleasurable to our brain. And we can get dopamine from all sorts of places. We can get it from food, wine, scrolling Instagram, shopping, watching Netflix, playing a game on our phone, you name it, we can get it very, very easily. So as I started coaching, I started to understand that the food was so appealing to me because it allowed me to get dopamine. It allowed me to feel good in the moment, and then I wouldn't have to look at all of the thoughts that were running underneath the surface. So suddenly I had this explanation for why I was over drinking at holiday or networking events. And I could now see that I used to stand by the food table or go back and get seconds or have another drink simply because I was trying to numb myself from simply feeling my emotions. And this can become a big problem at the holidays. Number one, there are so many holiday functions to attend, whether it's your company party, the party that you're supposed to throw for your properties, your friends' parties, if your kids have holiday events, your family. I mean, there's so many places that you are supposed to be all at once, which really cuts down on the time that you have for yourself to rest and relax. Now, what makes this even more difficult is that typically in those places, we're being served foods that are either very high in sugar or flour, or there's usually alcohol there. So typically we're showing up to these events and we're very, very stressed out. And so that tendency to want to hit the easy button and numb ourselves with food and drink is it's easy, it's right there. We don't have to address how stressed we are because we can numb it out with a little bit of dopamine. So where I think I was getting caught up was that I was laying on so much unnecessary pain, particularly during the holidays. So you may have heard me talk about the concept of 50-50. And for those of you who haven't heard it before, I'll explain it to you. There's this assumption that we should be happy all of the time, right? We hear people say this to us in many situations. I just want you to be happy. I wish you were happy. I want myself to be happy. And on the outside, I think that sounds like a really nice, happy thought, but it actually causes us pain, because the second that we're not happy, we think that something has gone wrong. We think we now have a problem to fix. If we accept that 50% of our human experience will actually be negative emotion, and that only 50% of it will be positive emotion, now we can get rid of unnecessary pain. So I'll give you an example of this. It is not uncommon in property management that you will be frustrated by something or someone, right? So if we accept that part of the time we're going to be frustrated, there's nothing to panic about. Where we start layering on unnecessary pain is when we start judging or criticizing. So for example, if you have a vendor who messes up a quick turn order and you're frustrated because it has messed up your turn schedule, that's acceptable. Where the unnecessary pain comes in is where we start judging or criticizing that person. And notice now how our focus isn't even on solving the problem, it's just placing blame. All of that is unnecessary. If we just accept that some days in property management are going to be frustrating and move on, we actually get to that 50% happiness quicker. So for me, in holiday settings, this would typically show up either in familial settings or networking events. I was layering on a lot of unnecessary pain because I was panicking about fitting in. I was worried anytime that there was a disagreement. And I really didn't like it if someone made comments about a choice that I'd made. And so to avoid that, I would just distract myself with food or drink. But then I'd be lapping on more unnecessary pain because of all of the guilt and shame I would feel about overeating. So you can see how this kind of becomes the sick cycle where it's like we're doing something that the next day just causes us more pain, and then we're in pain, and then we're back to using food or alcohol to solve for that pain. And now we're stuck. Now, this podcast isn't necessarily about food, drink, or weight, but I was having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine a few weeks ago, and we were talking about navigating thoughts about weight and body. And I really despise the diet industry because it is so focused on what to do. We were talking about how when we see people with weight issues, the problem isn't so much about that person lacking self-control. It's more about that person needing to heal this pain that they have inside of them. For my clients, essentially, what I was trying to do was take more action to solve my problem instead of stopping to consider what was causing the problem in the first place. The problem was the thoughts that I was choosing to think. Those were what was causing me pain, and that's why I was overeating. This past holiday, I did eat more food than was necessary, but that is what Thanksgiving is all about. But a few other things happened. I didn't snack between meals. I felt no desire to drink more than one drink each day. I didn't feel out of place because I don't drink anymore. I portioned out mini pieces of each of the desserts and I ate them and I was satisfied. And because I was satisfied, I didn't need to go back and have more. And because I didn't go back and have more, I didn't feel unnecessary guilt. And because I wasn't on a sugar crash or drinking more than necessary, I was fully present for my family. There wasn't a single argument or moment of awkwardness. This holiday for me was all about connection, true connection, real connection, the type of connection that you cannot create when you're using food, Instagram, shopping, or wine to distract yourself from your own feelings. one of the things that we do in our group program is look at all of the ways that we're trying to avoid our emotions. I like to call it hitting the easy button. And there is going to be a whole entire podcast episode on this coming up very soon. When you start to get a hold over these habits, you regain more time and energy to give to the things that you actually want to be doing. I want to be the best tita that I can be to my nieces and nephews. I want to be a reliable source of support for my aging parents. I want to be the biggest cheerleaders for my siblings. And I was so proud that I could walk away from this holiday feeling not that I had done all of those things, but knowing without a shadow of a doubt that I'm well on my way to figuring out how to do that. As you go through the holidays, it's not uncommon that this is a stressful and in many cases painful time for people. So my ask of you is this: life is 50-50, and you are going to feel pain, you are going to feel stress, and that's okay. But I want to invite you to choose to look at the pain that gets you closer to healing. I am telling you from firsthand experience, it is so worth it. And if you have no clue how to get started, I'm going to invite you to join us in our group program. You can even get a free session to try out coaching firsthand and decide if it's right for you. If this is something that you want to do, go to 𝐼𝐴NNAHAVLIANA.com, click Get Free Coaching in the top right-hand corner. That's 𝐼𝐴NNAJAV as in vanish, 𝐿LANA.com, and click Get Free Coaching. I love you to pieces. Happy holidays. Keep going.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Addicted to Busy. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.